Hey, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing Singapore Airlines Business Class on board the Airbus A350 on my recent journey from Singapore Changi Airport to Manila Airport in August 2025. I'm going to review the pre-flight experience at Singapore Airport, including the Singapore Airlines Business Class lounge. And then, once we get on the plane, I'm going to review the seat, the amenities, the food and drink, the facilities, and of course, the arrival into Manila Airport. Our journey today from Singapore to Manila International Airport clocks in at just under 2,400 kilometers and takes approximately 3 hours and 20 minutes in the sky. I arrived today to the airport by train. Sometimes I take a train, sometimes I take a taxi. It really depends on how lazy I'm feeling. We're very lucky in Singapore, but there's a train connecting the central business district to the airport, and which only takes about 50 minutes and costs $1.50. The fact that one of the richest countries in the world charges only $1.50 to get to the airport is truly incredible. We arrived today into Terminal 3. Now, my flight is actually departing from Terminal 2, but as I've covered extensively in my previous videos, the lounges in Terminal 3 are far superior, hence why I'm checking in here. Fortunately, Changi Airport allows you to check in and clear immigration at either Terminals 1, 2 or 3, and then take an airside sky train after immigration to the terminal you're departing from. As you can see, there were a very small number of people in the queue for check-in, and I had my boarding pass in my hand in about 5 minutes. Before clearing immigration, I filmed this quick footage of the SG60 celebration decorations that the airport had put up. It was only a few days before National Day. As is pretty much always the case at Changi, immigration was lightning fast, and I was through in literally 30 seconds. The business class lounge is approximately a 5-minute walk to the left once you clear immigration. Simply look out for this set of escalators and the iconic sign, make your way up, hand your boarding pass to one of the lounge attendants, and you'll be through in no time at all. The lounge was super quiet when I arrived, and I had no trouble finding a table. Now, I mentioned earlier how much nicer the Terminal 3 lounge is compared to Terminal 2. Well, here's a quick clip of the Terminal 2 lounge to show you why I check in at Terminal 3. Can you notice the difference? This lounge is far nicer, both in finish and on the food and drink offered. Hey, if you're liking the video so far, please subscribe. I post twice weekly. I've reviewed this lounge in great detail in a video which I've linked at the end of this one, so I'll only give you a brief overview here. I ordered a sandwich from the made-to-order section, which I believe was ham, tomato and cheese, and came with bacon. I also had the bak kut teh soup, which is effectively rib soup, as well as a Diet Coke and a double espresso. All of this was excellent, tasted really great, and really hit the spot before my flight. Having had my food and drink, it was time to leave the lounge and make my way to the SkyTrain, which would take me to Terminal 2. Before boarding the train, I noticed that parked nearby was an Airbus A350 for Singapore Airlines, which is the plane we would be taking today. I took a quick shot, as it's rare to get such a close-up video of it. It really is a beautiful plane, and I can't wait to fly it. The SkyTrain is approximately a 5-minute walk from the lounge. It departs every 4 minutes, and the journey takes about 2 minutes. So, generously, you only need to budget about 10 to 15 minutes to get between terminals at the most.
Please hold on to the handrails. We are now leaving for Terminal 2.
It was a super smooth transfer between terminals, and I was on my way to my gate very quickly. Today, my flight is departing from gate E22, which is roughly a 10-minute walk from the SkyTrain. Thankfully, this walk is aided by moving escalators. I arrived at the gate and cleared security and found that we weren't yet ready to board, although I only had to wait approximately 2 minutes before they commenced boarding. Before boarding, I snapped a quick shot of the exact Airbus A350 which was going to take us today to Manila. For today's flight, I was sat in seat 17K, which is a window seat on the right side. This flight was moving very quickly today, and not long after I took my seat, we began our pushback from the gate. Whilst we were pushing back, the flight played its iconic safety video.
Welcome aboard Singapore Airlines. As the safety equipment on this aircraft may differ from that on other aircraft, please give us your attention as we bring you through this important safety briefing and on a journey through Singapore. Pull the mask down sharply. Place it over your mouth and nose. Pull the lateral straps to tighten it and breathe as usual. Secure your mask first before helping others. It is normal for the bag to not fully inflate. Attention! Refer to the safety card located in the seat pocket in front of you for more information. On behalf of Singapore Airlines, we hope you have a great time on board as well as in Singapore or anywhere else in the world we take you.
To the left-hand side of the seat is a storage compartment into which they placed a bottle of water, the headphones, a universal power socket, and 2 USB-A style sockets. There's also a very large table relative to the size of the seat, although somebody explained to me this is where the footrest from the seat behind you goes. The seat, lighting, and crew buttons are controlled by these digital buttons, which are intuitive and easy to understand. The in-flight entertainment is controlled by this digital remote control, which looks very high-tech, and you can actually control everything from here. Even though the screen is touchscreen, there's no need to use it. The headphones are Singapore Airlines' own branded headphones. They're noise-cancelling, padded, and were very comfortable for the 3-hour flight. Overall, the seat came with a decent amount of legroom, a widescreen in-flight entertainment, and had a great view out of a window. I was really looking forward to settling into this for the next 3 hours. One thing that I never get tired of seeing is that post-COVID, Singapore Airlines has returned to paper menus. Let's take a look inside. Speaking of which, going forward in my videos, I'm going to be scanning the menu instead of taking video. Let me know in the comments if you prefer this. Our lunch today consisted of a 3-course meal plus fruits. I'll review this in full later in the video. For alcoholic drinks, a full bar was stocked, including vintage champagne, white wine, red wine, and fortified wine. If wines aren't your thing, an extensive cocktail menu is also featured. If it's been a tough day and you want something harder, there's an extensive list of high-end spirits, including XO cognac, single malt Scotch whisky, and Japanese whisky. In addition to the soft drinks and mocktails, there's also an extensive coffee menu, and do note that the coffees can be prepared in numerous ways, including lattes or espresso. For tea, you have a choice between TWG and Singapore Airlines' own in-house tea selection. Taxi to the runway took approximately 10 minutes, and then it was time to take off. Based on recent feedback, I'm not going to be speeding up the takeoff. I'm going to be showing it in full. Please let me know in the comments if you prefer this. very smooth takeoff, and in what felt like no time at all, we had turned around and were on our way to Manila. The screen for the in-flight entertainment was a really decent size, and it was definitely high definition. The picture quality was really good. And when you're not watching it, you can just check out the amazing view out of a window. It was such a clear day today. About half an hour into the flight, the crew came round and served the first course. I was pleased to see that today our lunch would be served course by course. We started with a prawn salad with cucumber. This was mixed. The salad was nothing to write home about, but the prawns were excellent. Fresh, tasty, and went really well with the sauce that covered the salad. Served alongside this were 2 pieces of Singapore Airlines signature garlic bread, which I maintain is the best in the sky. Whilst I was eating, I had this incredible view out of the window. Honestly, it felt like a waste to use the in-flight entertainment. For my main course, I didn't order off the standard menu, but rather used the Book the Cook facility to pre-order a special meal which you can select from a fairly extensive list flying out of Singapore. Today, I went for the braised duck rice based on a recommendation I saw in another video, and I've got to say, it may not look it, but it tasted fantastic. Dessert was the pandan cake served with sliced fruits. For the fruits, they were okay, but there's not much you can do with melon, grapes and cherries. Although I will say the cherries were particularly sweet and tasty. For the cake, I'm going to be biased. I love pandan, so any pandan cake is going to be a winner for me. I mentioned earlier in the video that you can order your coffee in a variety of styles, and I wasn't lying. Here's proof. I ordered a double espresso after my meal, and it came out piping hot and was very tasty. Having finished my meal, I went to the toilets to check them out. As you can see, they're nicely appointed with flowers and were a decent size. You certainly wouldn't feel cramped in here. The other thing that I noticed was how spotlessly clean they are. You can definitely tell you're on an airline run by Singapore. This was 2 hours into the flight, and honestly, it looked like we just stepped on the plane. Even the toilet paper was folded with the ends into the little corners. I'm sorry, I don't know how else to describe that. Another thing that I noticed, and I haven't decided whether it's good or bad yet, is that the change from Penhaligons to Payot seems to be permanent, as this is the 4th flight I've been on that's had these. I mean, they're quite nice, it's just being originally from London myself, I'm more used to and familiar with Penhaligons. As usual, the amenity drawer was stocked with everything you could need, from shavers to toothbrushes to combs to shaving cream. You certainly wouldn't run out of toiletries on this 3-hour flight. Overall, this was a very impressive toilet, and I loved the small touches they had gone to differentiate it from the economy toilets. I returned to my seat, and with about an hour and a half left on the flight, I settled down and watched a movie, whilst watching the world fly by below me out of a window. With about 14 minutes left to go, the captain came on the intercom to announce we were beginning our descent into Manila. I imagine we had probably been descending for a little bit before this, but this was the point that he announced it. As I looked out of the window, I could already see land below us, so I knew we were close. I think it was at this point that I realised how close my seat was to the engine. I hadn't realised up until this point, and probably would have featured it on the takeoff footage had I known this originally. As I began to see some familiar Manila landmarks, I knew we really were close to landing. As before, I'm not going to speed this up, and I will show it in full. was quite a bumpy landing. Bear in mind, I'm using a camera with an image stabilizer, so how smooth it looked was not reflective of how smooth it was. Taxi to the gate took 8 minutes, and as there was no first class cabin on this plane, the business class passengers were first to deplane. The walk to immigration took about 5 minutes, and fortunately, there was barely any queue and I was through in a matter of minutes, and in my car on the way to my hotel. I pre-booked a car because Manila is notorious for airport taxis horrendously ripping off tourists, which I am in this country. The ride took about half an hour, and before long I was looking out onto the Manila skyline at sunset. Honestly, seeing a view like this makes the trip so worthwhile. Definitely worth spending 3 hours on a plane for. Look, it's conclusion time. And what can I say? This is simply the best way to travel between Singapore and Manila. Hands down. Very few airlines operate a business class cabin on this route, and of those that do, I think it's safe to say that this flight and Singapore Airlines rank top. Others, like Philippine Airways, whilst good, are not up to the same standard. So I'm not going to do my usual thing of critiquing each item point by point. The reality is, I just take a step back, and the overall experience is that this is the best way to travel on this route. It doesn't get any better than this on Singapore to Manila. Now, it didn't used to be this way. Pre-COVID, Singapore Airlines put its first class cabin on the Manila route, something that I have flown in the past, although I wasn't at the stage of making videos back then. I don't know if there are any plans to bring it back, but it was cancelled during COVID and never returned. And, to the best of my knowledge, please do correct me if I'm wrong, not a single airline operates a first-class cabin between Singapore and Manila. I would say this is well worth the money or air miles to book. For barely more cash or miles than you would use to travel to Jakarta or Bangkok, which are about 1 and 2 hours respectively, you get a 3.5-hour flight, and it routinely costs far less than Hong Kong, which is only about 10 minutes longer, but for some inexplicable reason requires a lot more miles and cash. Wait, what am I saying? I know the reason. It's because Hong Kong is a major financial hub and Manila isn't. So they think that they can charge more because people will pay it, and they're thinking that correctly. What I meant to say is, on a value for money basis, Manila stands out as one of the better routes within Southeast Asia. This was a 5 out of 5 star flight for me. I've flown it in the past, I will fly it again in the future, and I highly recommend you do too.